There comes a moment in every student's life when failure stops feeling like an event and starts feeling like an identity. It is the moment when one bad result becomes many, when disappointment stacks on disappointment, and when the question quietly changes from what went wrong to what's wrong with me. This is the moment when most students give up. Not loudly, not dramatically, but silently. They continue attending classes, submitting assignments, sitting in exams, yet inside, they have already accepted defeat. They stop expecting success. They stop trusting themselves. They stop believing effort matters. This story is about that moment, and why, if you understand it correctly, you can never truly fail again. There was a student named Arjun, not brilliant, not dull, just average in every visible way. Teachers never pointed him out as a problem, nor did they celebrate him as a promise. He sat in the middle rows, raised his hand occasionally, and passed his exams just well enough to move forward. No one worried about him. No one invested in him deeply either. For a long time, that was fine. Then came the first real failure. It wasn't dramatic. He didn't fail everything. He simply failed enough to feel it. A subject he had ignored, an exam he underestimated, a result sheet that carried more red marks than confidence. His friends moved ahead, talking about improvement, future plans, and opportunities. Arjun smiled along, but something inside him cracked. He told himself it was temporary. The next semester came. He promised to work harder. He made schedules that looked impressive on paper. He watched motivational videos late at night and felt inspired for brief moments. But inspiration faded faster than habits changed. Distractions returned. Discipline never fully arrived. And then he failed again. This time it hurt more, not because of the marks, but because of the pattern. Because now failure was no longer an accident. It was becoming predictable. Teachers began to look at him differently. Family conversations grew quieter and heavier. Friends stopped asking about his results. Arjun started asking a dangerous question. What if this is just who I am? That question is where most students lose their future. Because once you believe failure defines you, effort feels pointless. Why struggle if the ending is already written? Why try if disappointment is guaranteed? Slowly, subtly, Arjun lowered his expectations of himself. He stopped aiming high. Then he stopped aiming at all. He showed up physically but withdrew mentally. Days passed. Weeks passed. Exams came and went. And one evening, after receiving another disappointing result, Arjun sat alone in his room, staring at the ceiling, feeling something heavier than sadness. Resignation. Not anger, not fear. Just a quiet acceptance that his best days were behind him even though he was still young. That night his father entered the room. No lecture, no shouting, no comparison. Just one sentence. You know, his father said calmly, failure is only permanent when you stop learning from it. Arjun didn't respond, but the sentence stayed. Days later, something unexpected happened. One of his teachers, an older man, strict but observant, called him after class. Not to scold him, not to warn him, but to ask a simple question. Do you think you're stupid? Arjun hesitated, then nodded. The teacher shook his head. No, he said. You're undisciplined. There's a difference. One can be fixed, the other cannot. That sentence hit harder than any insult. For the first time, Arjun separated who he was from what he had done. Failure was no longer proof of inability. It was evidence of poor systems, weak habits, and avoidance. That realization did not magically improve his grades, but it changed something deeper: responsibility. He stopped blaming luck, stopped blaming teachers, stopped blaming circumstances. And most importantly, he stopped blaming himself as a person. He started studying differently, not harder, smarter. Short sessions, clear goals, no hero fantasies, just consistency. When motivation disappeared, he worked anyway. When fear appeared, he acknowledged it and continued. Progress was slow, painfully slow. There were days when he studied and still performed badly. Days when effort seemed invisible. Days when doubt whispered, "See, nothing has changed." But something had changed. He no longer quit mentally. Each failure became data. Each mistake became feedback. Each bad result became a lesson instead of a verdict. Months passed, results improved. Not dramatically, but steadily. One subject at a time, one concept at a time. Confidence did not explode, it accumulated. By the time Arjun graduated, he was not the top student, but he was unbreakable. And that is the point most students miss. Success is not what protects you from failure. Understanding failure is what makes success inevitable. Here is the truth no one tells students clearly enough. If you learn the right lesson from failure, you cannot truly fail again. You may lose marks. You may repeat exams. You may fall behind others, but you will never be defeated, because defeat requires surrender. Failure stops being dangerous when it stops being personal. Once you understand that performance is adjustable, skills are trainable, and intelligence is expandable, failure loses its power. It becomes temporary, informative, useful. Most students are not failing because they are incapable. They are failing because they were never taught how to respond to failure correctly. They panic. They hide. They compare. They give up internally. But the student who learns to stand after falling without drama, without excuses, without ego, becomes unstoppable. Because life after education will test you harder than any exam, and if failure still scares you then, you will hesitate when it matters most. But if you master it now, while the stakes are smaller, you build a mindset that carries you everywhere. You stop fearing results. You stop fearing judgment. You stop fearing slow progress. You focus on process, and process always wins. So if you are a student listening to this, feeling behind, feeling tired, feeling disappointed in yourself, understand this clearly. You have not failed at life. You have not run out of chances. You have not reached your limit. You are simply being trained. And once training is understood, quitting no longer makes sense. Because the student who refuses to quit cannot be permanently defeated. Not in exams, not in career, not in life. And that is why, once you truly learn from failure, you can never fail again.